Gets to be a bit of a broken record after a while, doesn't it, cheeseheads? Another year, your team wins double-digit games in the regular season, wins the NFC North relatively comfortably, and then chokes it away with a home playoff loss. Yeah, it's an all-too-familiar refrain. Like, you can trash talk the Bears and other teams all you want, deservedly so, until you get to the point of the games that really matter the most, and then you guys are the ones that are gagging it away big time. Like, somebody should check the Green Bay Packers for their gag reflexes, because come January, whew, they are mighty. Yikes. And it was one thing during the 2020 season, you lose the NFC Championship game at home, and it's not the first time an Aaron Rodgers-led Packers team lost an NFC Championship game, that's for sure. It's one thing to lose it, though, to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers with Tom Brady and that great offense and defense that was able to get after the quarterback. Like, that's one thing. But to turn around and lose in the divisional round when you have home field advantage throughout to the freaking 49ers that are led by Jimmy Garbage Pail? And it's one thing that in that 2020 season, it was the defense that ultimately held you back. This time, it was the freaking offense. And you could say, well, you had the special teams, block, punt, touchdown late. Yeah, that certainly didn't help matters. But the Packers' defense played at a level that was necessary enough or good enough to be able to win it all. And the offense let them down. So what did the Packers do in all their infinite wisdom to sit there and resolve that? They got the Aaron Rodgers drama resolved. They were able to kick that can down the road, it looks like, a few years. And good luck with salary cap hell in the future. Oh, my goodness. But they said, it's really hard to get rid of the multiple-time league MVP Aaron Rodgers like this. But then, the one reliable, consistent weapon you had in the passing game, Davante Adams, you traded away for a first and second round pick in one draft. And then you sit there and you look at the offseason approach. You could say, well, you signed Sammy Watkins. Well, last time I checked, he ain't Davante Adams. Same draft class, doesn't mean they're the same player. You let Zadarius Smith go, which probably isn't a big deal because you still got Preston Smith and you've got former first-round pick Rashawn Gary. You retained Devondre Campbell, who had a great season on the interior of that linebacking core for the Packers. You bring in Jarran Reed, which is going to help beef up that defensive front. But then you point to the first round of the draft, and the Packers fucking do it again. When it's so clearly obvious that you need to get more help for Aaron Rodgers, you spend your first two picks on the defensive side of the damn ball. Like, how stupid can you be? That's not me crapping on Quay Walker or Devontae Bryant, but holy Christ. If you're going to trade away Davante Adams, you would think that you would want to bring in somebody that could potentially step in day one and be an impact player. And newsflash, second-round pick Christian Watson probably ain't that dude. He's raw. He's going to need time more likely than not. Yeah, you bring in like Sean Ryan on the offensive line, and it looks like Romeo Doubs could be a good receiver. Might be better than Christian Watson in year one for sure, but god damn, like that's just being stubbornly stupid for the sake of being stubbornly stupid. Your defense was not the problem last year. Your offense was when it mattered most. And your way to address that was to go with the Bears football mindset of beefing up your defense? Holy Christ. Like the whole Davante Adams thing. Like, we all hear different reports and saw different reports about what went down there. I just think it's crazy to me. Like, number one, how you couldn't figure out a way to keep him too. I mean, like, if you don't care about the future in terms of the salary cap, why not go really nuts here with Davante Adams? But even if you said, well, you can reinvest $30 million elsewhere in the organization. Okay, where did they reinvest it? It all went to Aaron Rodgers? Did it? Just mind-numbing to me, like how you could sit there and be on the precipice of being a championship team, and the Packers just can't seem to get it right. And it was kind of like the Saints a few years back with Drew Brees and Sean Payton. Like every year they were getting close, but at some point in time, you got to shit or get off the pot. You either go all the way or you don't, and the Saints ultimately did not. And you wonder if we're at that point with the Packers. And what a shame for the Packers. If you told anybody that they were going to have 30 years combined of Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers and walk away with 2 Lombardi trophies, you could put the positive spin on that and say, 2 Lombardi trophies is 2 Lombardi trophies. Yes, that's true. But when you have those types of quarterbacks for that length of time, you're expecting more than 2 Lombardi trophies. You're expecting 4, 5, 6. You're expecting to be a dynasty. Not just like in the mix, consistently contender type of deal. Because the reality is Aaron Rodgers ain't getting any younger. And you certainly don't seem to feel very confident in the future behind him in Jordan Love. Because if he did, this would have been the perfect time to move on from him. And that's the piece I don't understand. Like for the Green Bay Packers, you're going to do all that to bring back Aaron Rodgers, which indicates to me that you're all in. Then you should be making moves that reflect that you're all in. And if you're not going to do that, then you should have just moved the hell on and started the Jordan Love era and find out what you truly do have or not. Why kick that can down the road anymore? I don't get it. I just don't get it. So it feels like it's going to be a similar refrain for the Packers. They have Aaron Rodgers. They should be able to run the ball. You could see there was a more concerted effort to run the ball last year with Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon, and they should be able to do that. And feels like the type of formula that would bode well for success in the playoffs, except it didn't last year. They are really good in their defensive front seven. They can get after opposing quarterbacks. They've got Devondre Campbell inside. They've drafted Quay Walker. So, like, that defensive front seven is going to be really good. They added Devontae Bryant to the mix. The same thing as last year. And then you look at the concerns for this team. It's the same thing as last year, it feels like, in some respects. What does Rodgers' supporting cast look like in the passing game? Like, where's the tight end that can make the difference? Who's going to be, like if you're sitting there saying Allen Lazard is going to be wide receiver 1, that feels like a big stretch. Sammy Watkins is going to be a wide receiver 1, that's a big stretch. You rely on a couple of rookies like Dobbs and Watson, like that's a pretty big stretch. Randall Cobb, okay, role player maybe, but as a big-time weapon, that's a really, really big stretch at this point. Then you look at the offensive line depth. You still have guys like Bakhtiari and Jenkins and Myers, but you know the depth behind them isn't so good. So if one or two of those guys gets hurt, this Packers offensive line could be in some trouble. And you've still got a young secondary they've invested heavily in. You think with Jair Alexander and Darnell Savage. You know, you need to also talk about last year's first-round pick Eric Stokes. Another example of, well, they helped Aaron Rodgers by drafting a corner. At least you could say there, well, at least they were addressing the need of our secondary's got to get better. But they've got a young secondary with upside, and Jair's an absolute stud, but you know this is a secondary that could probably still be had. But all of this really doesn't matter because it comes down to, like, I could talk about the regular season and say weeks 3 and 4, those are key matchups at Tampa Bay, and then hosting the Patriots. Week 8, they got to travel to Buffalo. Week 10, they host the Cowboys. Week 15, they host the Rams. Like, those are all big kind of marquee matchups. I mean, but it feels like a similar refrain here. We're talking about the Green Bay Packers are going to comfortably win the NFC North. I've got them going like 13 and 4. I'd be surprised if they didn't, even with some of the changes on offense. They're still the class of this division, but it doesn't matter. Like, what's going to be so different this year? What is going to move the needle for the Packers this year? What is going to change that will allow them to get over the hump to get back to the Super Bowl to potentially win another Lombardi trophy? Where is that infrastructure? Where are those difference makers? You got rid of one of your difference makers in Davante Adams. Where the hell did you replace him? There's some moneyball crap. You replaced him in the aggregate. Well, my math says that your math is broken. There is no aggregate equivalent here. And even there, you say, like with Aaron Rodgers, you know, a couple of MVP awards recently. You know, at some point in time, does he regress a little bit? And what happens if he does? Now you're trying to win with defense and running the ball? Oh, you could do that with Aaron Rodgers, yes. Like, that formula can work. It hadn't yet, though. I just don't know if it's going to this year. Feels like it's going to be yet another situation where the Packers get to a certain point and they just can't break through that glass ceiling.